Hello everyone. Pretty hot these days, isn't it? So let's do something different. Let's travel back in time to an era when everything was freezing cold. Food was a fantasy, and central heating was a dream yet to be invented. You wake up, curled beneath a stiff animal hide, only to discover your breakfast is a lump of snow. Not because you're on a diet, simply because there's literally nothing else to eat. Can you even imagine it? Back in the Stone Age, around 10,000 BC, where your eyebrows could freeze solid before you even finish asking, "What's for breakfast?" Think winter camping is rough. Trust me, you wouldn't last a week in this phase of human history. Let's say you've been reincarnated, not as a prince, not as a warrior, but as a shivering Stone Age human. How do you find food in a world made of ice stone and questionable edible things? Before we begin, take a second to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what we're doing here. And feel free to comment your local time and where you're watching from. Now then, turn off the lights. Maybe switch on a fan for a little ambient wind sound. And let's begin tonight's journey. Part 1. Freezing to death, just for a midnight pee. You wake up in the middle of the night, teeth chattering from the cold, and realize that stepping outside to take care of basic needs might just be a death sentence in the middle of the Ice Age. It's not because your blanket's thin. Obviously, you're wrapped in a piece of animal hide that's gone stiff like cardboard after a damp night. In this new life, the only warm thing seems to be the thought of your old cozy bed back in the modern world. But unfortunately, you need to pee. And this is where your first survival challenge begins: how not to freeze to death just because you had to go out for a wee. You drag yourself out of your tent, a pile of branches covered in animal skin, which you proudly call home, and feel every molecule of air slap you in the face with ice. The cold air somehow has a smell to it. A very distinct one, a mix of smoke-stale urine and damp fur. Don't ask how you know. You stumble behind a small mound, the place everyone in the tribe has silently agreed to be the shared bathroom, shivering as you go silently praying that there isn't a bear somewhere nearby with the same midnight urge. You think to yourself, am I going to be the first person in history to die from needing a pee at night? In the late Stone Age, people usually lived in small groups in makeshift huts, constantly battling bitter cold, especially toward the end of the Ice Age, and you're smack in the middle of it. You crouch down and get on with the task. Then you notice something else: your urine freezes before it even hits the ground. Well, isn't that lovely, you think? Maybe I should start weaponizing this. You let out a chuckle, your lips crack from the cold, and now your smile's frozen too. In your past life, you remember reading somewhere that archaeologists had found traces of fossilized urine. You remember how historians used to argue over whether fossilized pee was real. Well, now you know. Well, now. As you trudge back to your tent, a gust of wind rips through the air. The animal skin door flap gets blown open. You rush to pull it back down, but your fingers are so numb you can't tell string from finger. Then you see someone from your group sleep standing, literally upright, head resting on a log, arms wrapped around a rock like it's a body pillow. You consider waking him, but then decide, if that rock makes him happy, who am I to interfere? A modern thought flashes through your mind. If only I had a warm toilet with a motion sensor light, I'd cuddle it all night. But no, the only thing glowing here is the owl's eyes peeking from a branch nearby. It stares at you like you're still alive. You quietly slide back into your tent, lie down on the dry grass floor, and start shivering to the rhythm of the cold. Everyone's still asleep, snoring a symphony of prehistoric sounds. Someone wheezes through their nose, another rasps like a dying bellows, and one makes noises like an animal on its last breath. You sigh softly, thinking about breakfast. A breakfast in the numbing cold. And maybe that's tomorrow's problem. Part 2. Breakfast is hot water and tree roots. You wake up as the first light slips through the cracks of the animal hide, hitting your eyes like the torchlight of a boarding school teacher on patrol. Your back aches from a night on a bed of dry grass pressed into lumpy rocks. Your head is buzzing thanks to some bug that held a drinking party behind your neck without your permission. But more troubling than anything is your stomach. It's growling like a war drum. You look around. No one in the tribe is up early preparing a big tent breakfast, and there's definitely nothing resembling the smell of toasted bread or iced coffee. All you've got is a hollow bone leftovers from last night's bone water soup, and a crusty something stuck to a rock that looks suspiciously like ancient mold. You ask yourself, could I be the first person ever to eat this thing? And will I be the last? You step outside the wind, slapping your skin like you've walked into an open freezer. Everything is frozen solid. The ground feels like old granite, and not a single leaf remains on any tree. You begin your search for breakfast armed with two basic tools, a pointy stick, and a vague hope that somewhere out there, something might be edible. During the Neolithic period, especially in cold regions, humans learned to dig up roots, forage wild tubers, and occasionally gnaw on bark. Archaeological evidence shows human bite marks on tubers' roots, even bits of tender wood. You find a dry root poking out of the earth like a withered finger. You pull, nothing. Pull again, still nothing. You yank with both hands, then your whole body, then recruit a friend, and finally, both of you fall over backwards as the root snaps. The other half stays firmly underground, as if it were cast in titanium. You taste it. It's somewhere between old rubber sand and the last flicker of hope. But you chew anyway, and chew, and tear up. Not emotionally, the root is so tough you almost choke. Someone in the group brings out a stone pot, really, just a hollow in a large rock, fills it with snowlights, a fire underneath, and tosses in the half-chewed root. They call it smoked root stew, then they crack some bark and sprinkle it on top like sesame on toast. You watch the scene and think, we've just invented fine dining, in a world that hasn't even invented salt. You remember those moments in your past life when you grumbled because breakfast was out of yogurt, or your boiled egg had cracked. Now you're gnawing on tree bark steeped in hot water, wondering if your teeth count as a survival tool. You imagine filming a prehistoric TikTok, holding up the root to the camera and saying, "Today I'll show you how to eat healthily by chewing on something the tree never meant to share with you," with hashtags like #rootlife, #deliciously questionable. Yet amid all the laughter and absurdity, something strange begins to happen despite the lack of oil salt or decent bowls sitting around a hot rock pot. Sipping warm root water with others brings a quiet kind of comfort. Maybe it's hunger, or maybe you're getting used to the rhythm of this life. You remember back in your past life when historians debated whether Stone Age humans had a miserable diet. Well, now you know the truth, they did, but they still found ways to call it traditional breakfast. And as the breakfast of smoky root stew ends, everyone stretches, lets out a few discreet farts into the morning mist, like some kind of ritual to start the day. You wonder if someday someone will name this dish ancestor porridge. It has a familiar ring to it. But the cold waits for no one. And your stomach, though comforted still, isn't satisfied. You know you'll have to do more than this. Maybe it's time to cook something proper. Part 3. Wondering why nobody's invented Hotpot yet. Your stomach has just calmed down and now your head starts making noise. The first thought that hits you, I wish there was Hotpot. Not the fancy stuff, no Australian seafood or Wagyu beef. Just boiling water, a few slices of meat, some vegetables, a decent pot, and the kind of temperature where snow doesn't freeze your dinner in 5 minutes. You'd be content. But instead, here you are standing in the middle of a leafless forest, clutching an empty stone skull that the tribe ceremoniously refers to as the official cooking pot. Around you are 7 other people, eyes gleaming like they're about to eat you. Not because they're starving, just because you were the one who suggested starting a fire this morning. You begin striking 2 flint stones together using a bit of dry grass and a whole lot of non-denominational prayer. After 3 broken fingernails, 2 burnt hairs, and 1 near miss that almost set your loincloth on fire, a thin wisp of smoke finally curls up like a minor miracle. "Fire's up," you shout, and like some ancient ritual the whole group claps, or more like bangs their stiff leather-gloved hands together, producing a sound more like rocks being smashed than applause. Archaeologists have found remains of fire pits dating back 7,000, 10,000 BCE, showing that cooking wasn't just for survival, it marked a huge leap in social life and communication. You pour water into the skull pot. Actually, rain collected from some giant leaves, then toss in the bits you gathered this morning. A handful of tree roots, some dry grass, edibility unknown, 1 aggressively sour wild berry, and very special, a bone chunk, still slick with old fat from a previous meal. The group gathers around this ancestral hot pot, staring like it's about to read scripture. Everyone begins debating, should we add stones to thicken the flavor? Is this leaf edible? Why does the smoke smell like burnt hair? An elder self-declared unofficial head chef suggests adding those red spiky leaves for more flavor. You hesitate. Didn't someone itch all night last time we tried that? The elder nods wisely. That was because it was raw. Cook it, and it'll itch on the inside instead. Back in the modern world, all it took was an internet search to find a recipe complete with HD photos, soft music, and calming voiceovers. Now you stir soup made of bones, roots, and mystery greens with a tree branch. And maybe hope is the strongest spice you have. You imagine doing a prehistoric food vlog. Hi everyone, today I'll show you how to make burnt root and bone stew with surprise moss topping. The secret is, don't ask what the ingredients are. Eventually the dish is done when it smells like old lamb fat mixed with detergent that was never rinsed. You scoop it out and everyone passes the bowls around. No one says anything. Each person lets out a faint groan as they swallow. You can't tell if it's satisfaction or a silent cry for help. A quiet sense of pride creeps in. You've just made the first cooked meal of this winter without anyone immediately passing out. You remember how in your past life historians debated whether prehistoric people had a concept of cuisine? Well, now you know the truth, we did. It was just a little dangerous. After the meal, you notice people looking at you differently, a touch of respect, perhaps. You might have just been promoted to head cook in the village, which probably means everyone will ask you for a new dish every day from now on. Fair enough. You sit watching the fire burn low, not exactly full, but strangely satisfied. Something inside you says, I made it through today. Then you look up and think, now, time to catch a rabbit. Part 4. Setting traps, but the animals are smarter than you. You wipe your hands on a patch of dry grass after finishing the legendary lunch of bone broth with root water. You don't exactly feel hungry anymore, but also not alive. A kind of light emptiness spreads through you, as if your stomach just held a meeting and voted unanimously. We need protein, urgently. And so, as a primal instinct, or maybe just desperation in fur, you decide time to trap something. The plan isn't complicated. Find a sturdy branch, tie it with some dried animal sinew, set it near a fresh rabbit track. Your group splits in two, the strategic oversight team, i.e., those who stand around making comments, and the rest mainly you who are face down in the snow, fumbling with knots, nicking your fingers, and freezing your hands to the bone. As you wrap the sinew around a forked stick, you can feel the cold seeping into your joints. Every pull tightens your fingers a little more into icicles, but you carry on. The mental image of a golden brown roasted rabbit dances vividly in your mind, enough to numb the pain. You've already imagined the triumphant entrance back into the camp rabbit over your shoulder, greeted like the prehistoric Oscar winner you clearly are. The trap is set. You hide behind a large rock. The wind brushes past, carrying with it the scent of snow and doubt. You hold your breath. A small figure appears upright, ears, a round little body bouncing delicately across the frost. A rabbit. You watch it closely. It gets closer to the trap, closer, even closer, then stops, looks right at the trap, and steps to the side. One side step. Not jumping over, not hesitating, just strolling around it like someone browsing organic veg at a farmer's market. You freeze. The rabbit stands beside the trap, looks directly at you, not in fear, but with an expression that says, "Really? That's your trap, mate." Then it hops off. You crawl out from behind the rock face red, not from the cold, but from the absolute humiliation. A quiet snort escapes from behind you. The strategic oversight team saw everything. One of them imitates the rabbit. "Oh no, a trap! I'm so scared." Everyone bursts out laughing. You try to save face rabbits these days are clever. Probably learned from their ancestors who got caught. Someone mutters, or maybe you were its ancestor. You stand up, brush snow from your knees, and look to the sky. Grey clouds, cold and gloomy. But your heart burns with determination. You will not be outwitted by a rabbit. You can't be. So you switch tactics. No more traps. You're going to hunt. You crouch behind a tree, sharp stone in hand, eyes scanning every bush. You mimic the breath of the wind, moving as slowly as a shadow. A faint rustle. It's the rabbit again, sniffing around a rare patch of grass. You raise your arm, stone ready, shoulder tense, aim. You throw. The rock sails off in a completely unrelated direction, so wildly off that even the rabbit pauses, looks around, and bolts. Again. You sigh. Your body aches from crouching, from the cold, from spiritual defeat. Just then, a tiny squirrel too small even for a snack runs up and trips your trap. You stare down. It's lying there, tail straight up, looking at you as if to say, "Fine, you win." You bring it back like a defeated warrior clutching a consolation prize. No one laughs because you've brought home actual meat. Fist-sized meat, sure, but still meat. You sit by the fire, slowly turning the squirrel on a stick, eyes fixed on the flames. One thought echoes in your head. Why are rabbits smarter than me? Maybe history won't remember this, but you've learned something: humans don't always win. Sometimes rabbits rule the food chain. You bite into your first bit of meat, dry, bitter, smoky, like burnt sawdust. But you smile, because today you ate something that you caught. And tomorrow you swear you'll catch that rabbit, if it's still alive, to laugh at you again. Part 5. Do fish need Wi-Fi or something? You wake up with a rock-solid resolve today. It's fish day. Not salted fish, not dried fish, and definitely not imaginary fish. Real fish. Fresh, flapping tail, slapping fish. You've had enough of nibbling grass, chewing roots, and side-eyeing rabbits like they're Wagyu steak. It's time to conquer a different species, those hiding under the ice. In the dim morning light, you grab your pointy spear and head to the nearby stream, or rather, what used to be a stream. Now it's a frozen hole of despair, covered in ice so thick you could jump on it and bounce. The surface reflects your faint shadow. You look like a frostbitten warrior starring in a survival show without breakfast. You crouch down, breath fogging out in white bursts, and start chiseling a hole in the ice with a sharp rock. Each hit is a full-body workout balance grip. Strength glute control plus a solid risk of bruising your behind on the slick surface. After about an hour, you finally carve out a round hole. Cold water bubbles up, and you, with the hopeful eyes of a man about to become the next prehistoric celebrity chef, lower your spear into the depths. You wait, and wait, and wait. Nothing happens. You peer down into the water. Clear. Still. No sign of life. No movement. Just your own reflection staring back, cold and slightly defeated. You begin to wonder, do fish hibernate? Or worse, do they know I'm here and just vanish? You squint harder. Maybe the fish are playing mind games. You kneel down and stick your hand into the hole. Big mistake. Within 3 seconds, your hands are completely numb. You yank them out, try to warm them up by rubbing, blowing, even pressing them against your own cheek, but nothing. They feel like dead branches. You try another method, dropping in a lump of squirrel fat from yesterday's victory. A bait offering. You wait again. Wind howls around your ears as your mind drifts. Is this a fish conspiracy? 2 hours later, you walk away carrying a perfectly round ice disc with not a single fish inside. If there were an award for most pointless water sculpture, you'd win gold. You trudge back to camp, mind full of philosophical questions. Are humans really the smartest animals? If we spend 3 hours staring into fishless holes? Back at camp, a kid asks, "Did you get any fish?" You nod. Yeah, but they're all in a meeting. Everyone nods in understanding as if that somehow makes sense. You sit by the fire legs, trembling from the cold. Someone hands you a bowl of grass porridge. You drink it without looking. Your soul is still frozen somewhere beneath that ice hole. And then an idea. You grab the stone skull you used for cooking yesterday, fill it with water, light a fire. Into the pot you toss a bit of burnt bark, some leftover root strands, and the last smear of fat. Then you lean over the pot, inhaling deeply. The smell of fat fills the air. Maybe, just maybe, you think fish might be drawn in by scent. You return to the stream, drop your last piece of squirrel fat into the hole, close your eyes, and imagine tiny fish swimming over, catching a whiff, whispering to each other. Ooh, barbecue party. But 10 minutes pass, then 20, then 30. Nothing. Just a lone waterbird swoops by, poops near your foot, and flies off without saying a word. You watch it go, thinking, yep, I've got nothing to say either. As the sun starts to dip, you cover the hole with a flat rock and make a mental note, come back tomorrow. Not because of the fish, but because you refuse to let ice win forever. That night you lie in your tent, dreaming of fish, hotpot, spicy broth, fresh greens, vermicelli noodles, and sigh deeply. Outside the wind still blows. You haven't caught a single fish, but you've learned one thing: nature is never easy to trick. But neither are you. Part 6. Your first encounter with bees, and they're not in a good mood. You're woken in the middle of the night by a strange sound, bruh bruh bruh, like someone whistling with 1,000 tiny whistles at once. You open your eyes, poke your head out from under your stiff animal hide, and see moonlight spilling across the tent, pale and cold, like leftover grease on yesterday's burnt pot. No one else is awake, but the buzzing won't stop. Still, bruh bruh bruh, as persistent as that root porridge still sitting undigested in your gut. You follow your gut, the new boss these days, and creep out of the tent. Something weird is happening near the big tree at the edge of camp, and sure enough, there it is. Hanging from a bare branch is a beehive. Not a huge one, but unmistakable. Stuck right there like someone hung it up just to tempt you. You're not even sure if it's honey, but after yesterday's fish failure, your stomach whispers, go for it. It's sweet. It's soft. You don't have to cook it. Just eat it. You remember someone saying that your ancestors treated honey like a luxury dessert. In a world without sugar, it was liquid gold. And you, of course, love gold, especially the edible kind. You find a long stick and creep closer. Each step is a negotiation with your common sense. Maybe there are no bees. Maybe they hibernate. Maybe I'm about to invent frozen honey for the first time in human history. You poke it gently, nothing happens. You reach out and break off a little piece from the bottom. A chunk falls. You can see the golden syrup inside. Heaven, you whisper. This is prehistoric dessert. Then just as you're about to pop it in your mouth, a low bruh hum rises from inside the hive. Faint, but enough to make your spine ice over worse than the fish hole from yesterday. You turn. No bees. You exhale. Then, bruh. A swarm, not massive but incredibly motivated. They shoot out of the hive like you just insulted their queen, and you with the reflexes of someone who once sprinted through a supermarket clearance sale run. You scream, "It's not me. You've got the wrong guy," without even thinking, tossing your stick, yanking off your animal's skin, in hopes the bees will be turned off by your body odor. Naked, as the day you were reborn, you dash back to camp, trailed by a trail of buzzing and the unmistakable scent of honey and fear. People wake up seeing you sprinting like a madman, mud on your face, muttering gibberish. Someone yawns. Is he dreaming about talking rabbits again? Another sighs. Nope, this one looks like a sleepwalking bee whisperer. You dive back into the tent shivering and discover a sting right on your left butt cheek. As if the bees had held a council and decided where would it hurt and humiliate him most. You curl up in your blanket, sore both physically and emotionally. Why did I think bees would hibernate? Why did I think I was smarter than an insect with a brain, smaller than a rice grain? But you don't blame them. They were just protecting their home, just like you'd guard your last bowl of cold porridge. A while later, someone walks over with a cold stone wrapped in rough cloth. "Here, don't sit straight," he says, then adds with a wink, "Next time you want honey, bring a better excuse." You nod grateful even though you're now sitting sideways like you just won a prehistoric dance-off. That night you lie wide awake, not from the pain, but from regret. That scent of honey still lingers in your nose, sweet, inviting. Next time you think you'll bring smoke to scare them off, or send someone else in first. You sigh, tug the hide over yourself and shiver gently. Outside the wind howls again, and somewhere in the distance a faint bruh rises like a warning. You close your eyes and mutter, "Tomorrow I'll hunt something that doesn't fly." Part 7. Dinner ends in a tent fire and the death of fire itself. You wake up the next morning with a new mindset. Today will be peaceful. No sarcastic rabbits, no fish giving you the cold shoulder, and absolutely no bees attacking your honor. You decide that instead of gambling with nature again tonight, you'll cook a proper dinner. Something simple, gentle, warm. No meat needed, just fire. The problem is there's no fire. No one knows exactly when, but this morning the fire is gone. The main campfire is out. The cooking flames are gone. Even the warm glow in people's eyes extinguished. You stare at the cold ashes, like a child looking at the broken remains of their favorite toy. You frantically turn over stones, hoping for a single ember. Nothing. Everything's cold like the gaze of the village elder when he found out you burned all the sinew to roast squirrel fat 2 nights ago. You and your group begin the process all over again. Rubbing sticks, striking stones, blowing softly, then rubbing again and blowing again. The more you blow, the more your lips crack. The more you rub, the more your fingers blister. And the longer it takes, the more your stomach mutters, "Don't let this become Raw Roots Season 2. After 3 hours, you manage to conjure a tiny wisp of smoke, thin as hope. But just as you're about to blow one more time, a gust of wind blows it all away, smoke ashes, and your last shred of dignity. You slump down in defeat. A younger member of the group mumbles, "We should have kept the fire going yesterday." Then it hits you. Right. Yesterday, a small fire was still burning in that rocky hollow by the stream, the place you used while unsuccessfully trying to fish. You jump up and run like someone's just discovered free Wi-Fi. When you get there, everything is still. You crawl into the cave and see an old pile of ash, and thank goodness, a faint red glow under the surface. It's still alive. You blow gently. The red glow brightens. You add dry grass bark and blow again. Smoke rises, and miracle of miracles, the fire comes back to life. You nearly cry. A tear rolls down, unclear whether from joy or smoke. Doesn't matter. Fire is life. Fire is dinner. Fire is the only thing standing between you and an eternal winter of eating regrets. You bundle the fire in dry moss and sprint back to camp like you're carrying the Olympic torch. Everyone cheers. One guy even jumps up like he just won a lottery. Fire. Yes, we can cook again. You place the bundle down, nurse it, and start rebuilding the campfire. Carefully, stick by stick, layer by layer. You feel like you're rebuilding trust itself. Then disaster. A stray spark jumps right onto a bundle of old animal hide hanging nearby, and in less than 3 seconds, flames roar up like a beast that's never learned self-control. People shout, some fetch water, others throw rocks. One person just slaps the fire with their hands while you, still holding the fire-blowing stick, freeze like a man in a public service announcement. Have you ever ruined everything by doing exactly what you were supposed to? The hide burns. Part of the tent roof gets scorched. A few mysterious objects whose function no one ever figured out turn to ash. When it's all over, people look at you like you've invented a new prehistoric way to destroy property in under 10 seconds. You sit down, coughing your face black with soot. Someone places a hand on your shoulder and says softly, "Well, at least we have fire again." Then they laugh. The whole group joins in. No one's really mad. Everyone knows without fire, no amount of cleverness can turn grass into dinner. You exhale, still reeking of smoke. The fire is relit. Everyone gathers around. Each person finds their role again. Some cook, some stoke the flames, some watch the pot, and others retell the story of the bee that stung you in the worst possible place. The smell of smoke fills the air again, but this time it's comforting. Dinner that night is root soup, a few charred bits of fat and special treat, some leftover dry honeycomb from your earlier war. Everyone slurps away like they're dining on a royal feast. You sit nearby, arm resting on your knee, eyes watching the fire flicker. Your back still aches, your face is still sooty, and your bum still hurts from the sting. But you smile, because today you brought fire back. Tomorrow it might rain, it might snow, there might be nothing to eat again. But at least now you know how to relight hope. Part 8. One winter morning, you decide to eat ice. You wake up with a strange sensation in your mouth, the taste of cold ashes and half-burnt wood. Not because you ate that last night, at least you hope not, but because your throat is bone dry like a riverbed in a drought. The cold has seeped deep into every joint, every bone, every muscle. It feels like you've spent the night sleeping inside, a walk-in freezer shaped like a tent. You rub your eyes and cautiously crawl out from under your animal hide, which has stiffened overnight, into something resembling a frozen yoga mat. The sun hasn't fully risen, but its faint light glints off a thin sheet of ice coating everything. Every step you take produces a soft crack beneath your feet, a kind of winter soundtrack. that nobody requested. And then an absolutely ridiculous idea enters your head. What if you ate ice? Not the kind from the cooking fire, obviously. The real stuff, the frozen stream. The very place where just yesterday you had a tragic no-fish expedition. You vaguely remember someone in the group whispering something about frozen water still having nutrients from nearby plants. Or maybe they were delirious with hunger. Either way, you've got nothing to lose. You trudge toward the stream body trembling, as if someone's shaking you via remote control. When you arrive, the ice is still there, untouched, clear, beautiful. You stare at it, wishing you had a mirror so you could confirm your beard is indeed growing unevenly to the left. You break off a chunk of ice and bring it to your lips. The chill hits instantly, like being slapped by winter itself. You suck on it. Your tongue goes numb in 3 seconds. But you persist. It has a flavor, specifically the flavor of nothingness. The taste of despair that's been cryogenically preserved. And yet, strangely, it takes the edge off your hunger. You start nibbling. Each crunch sends tiny warnings through your jaw. Stop this. Your teeth aren't built for this. But you continue, 1 chunk, then 2, then 3. And then pain. A freezing bolt shoots up from your teeth to your forehead, like someone hammering your skull from the inside. You drop the ice, groaning, rolling around like a bear with a cavity. You sit up panting, mouth frozen, stiff teeth chattering with rage or regret you can't tell. One clear thought floats through your mind. I just tried to eat water. In solid form. In winter. You return to camp, face red with embarrassment. Someone asks, "Where were you?" You mumble. Looking for ingredients. They smirk. What spiritual ones? You want to reply, but your mouth no longer cooperates. Your jaw is locked. Every time you try to speak, your teeth clack together like flint, only they spark nothing but shame. You find a spot near the fire and begin warming your hands. The smoke is heavy today, but you don't care. You lean your cheek into the rising warmth, silently apologizing to your body. Someone hands you a bowl of warm water made from boiled snow with a few strands of grass added for flavor. You take a sip and life slowly trickles back into your system. The water isn't sweet, isn't fragrant, but it's warm. And that alone feels like salvation. Someone sits beside you, whispers, "Eating ice in this cold. You must have been a glacier in a past life." You don't argue, because yes, you have behaved like a person with frozen logic. You look around camp. Everyone's huddled in stiff hides, barely speaking. The fire crackles. The wind whistles through cracks in the stone. But in that silent moment, you realize something simple. One gulp of warm water can conquer hunger, can beat the cold, can thaw the madness inside you. You sip slowly, thinking of modern breakfasts, toast, soft-boiled eggs, a hot latte. Then you return to the reality in your hands, snowgrass tea. And honestly, it's not that bad, because you're still alive. You still have warm water. And next time you swear you won't eat ice again, even if it tastes like frozen childhood memories. Part 9. You try eating moss and realize why nobody else does. You're sitting in front of a dying campfire, cradling a bowl of cold grasswater soup. Your thoughts drift away like the smoke rising from the damp firewood. Next to you, someone from the group is chewing on something wet, a soft, squelchy sound that should never be heard when your stomach is empty. You glance over. They're eating moss. A thick patch of moss, still clinging with bits of dirt, looking like something pulled straight off the floor of a rodent's bachelor pad. You open your mouth to ask, but remember you swore off eating ice yesterday, so maybe it's not your place to judge the moss. Tasty, you ask gently. They shrug, kinda chewy, but a bit bitter. You nod, trying to look supportive, but deep down, a thought rings clear. Wait, Are we really at the moss stage now? You begin to look around more carefully. There's actually quite a bit of moss growing on the rocks nearby. Bright green, damp, soft like used dish sponges. Truth be told, the longer you look, the more edible it seems. And that's when the thought hits you. What if I cooked the moss? You step outside and select a rock with some moss that's been gently sunlit, because obviously sun-warmed moss might be more fragrant. You peel it off carefully, avoiding any patches marked by suspicious squirrel droppings. A lesson learned the hard way during the mystery nut incident. Back at the fire, you wash the moss with melted snow and toss it into a gently bubbling pot. Instantly, the smell hits you strong, damp, slightly fishy, and vaguely reminiscent of forgotten laundry in a cave. You stir the pot with serious intent. Maybe add a little dried root. Maybe a dash of rock salt, i.e., white flakes scraped from a wall that you hope aren't toxic. Once the moss softens, you scoop out a portion. It looks like seaweed soup that's been robbed of all color, flavor, and hope. You take a bite. First, taste bitter, then sour, then oddly spicy, and finally soil, not earthy literal dirt. You crunch something and spit it out a tiny stone. It rolls away as if escaping the dish it refused to be part of. You nod slowly. Not bad, if I were a turtle. The rest of the group watches with cautious interest. One by one they try a spoonful, and within seconds, everyone wears the same expression, part betrayal, part awakening. That's why no one eats moss. You sit quietly feeling something odd in your belly. Not pain exactly, but preparation. You lean back and think, is this what your stomach does before declaring an emergency? One person bolts to the back of the camp clutching their stomach. Another curls up silently. A third lies down, eyes wide, staring at the sky. You think, oh no, I've invented biological warfare. 2 hours later, the chaos subsides. Everyone survives, but their trust in you cracked like thin ice under a dancing moose. You learn your lesson. Moss is not food. Moss is a warning. Moss is nature's way of saying don't. That evening, no one cooks. People just huddle around the fire, gently nursing their sore bellies, occasionally letting out a polite groan. No one blames you. They don't need to. The look they give you says it all. You wrap yourself in your hide face to the wall and whisper a hard-earned conclusion tomorrow. No more green wet experiments. Absolutely not. You mutter one last sarcastic line to yourself, not sure if it's a joke or a footnote in history. In my past life, people used to debate whether early humans actually ate moss. Well, now I know. You sigh. Sleep then. You'll need the energy to eat something tomorrow that's at least less mossy. Part 10. Feeling jealous of wolves. You wake up with a hunger so intense, there are no words for it. Only the sound of your stomach beating a tribal drum beneath your ribs. After yesterday's moss incident, your digestive system no longer trusts you. It's curled up in a corner of your gut, arms crossed, whispering, "You better not eat anything weird again." You quietly slip out of the tent, avoiding the half-suspicious, half-sympathetic glances of those who are still recovering from the shared moss trauma. All you want today is one thing: real meat. Actual, proper, respectable meat. And then you see it, a pack of wolves. Far off, on a foggy hillside, the wolves are hunting. The whole group moves as one lead wolf, charging through snow, two flanking from the sides, one bringing up the rear to cut off escape. A poor rabbit is surrounded. It doesn't get far. 10 seconds later, the wolves are having breakfast. You stare, not in horror, but admiration, the way they work together. No growling, no fumbling, no confused who's got the net. They're more organized than your team, which took 3 hours just to restart a fire. You scratch your chin, then glance back at your group. One guy is using a stick to scratch his own back by poking it through the tent wall. Another is still asleep with his mouth open, like he's breathing through his soul. And you suddenly feel a little embarrassed. You mutter, even the wolves have better teamwork than us. And then it hits you. What if you started a hunting team, a real one, like the wolves? You rush back to camp and gather everyone. Listen, you say the wolves just caught a rabbit. They're not stronger than us, just more cooperative. A pause. You see a spark in some eyes. One person yawns. We'll form squads. One to chase two, to flank one to cut off. Whoever catches something, everyone shares. No more solo survival. You finish, and miraculously, a few people nod. An hour later, the Gentle Flame Wolf Pack, a name someone suggested jokingly, and no one could top, sets out. You're holding the spear. Another carries rope. The smallest person naturally is selected as bait. You trek deep into the woods, eyes peeled for fresh rabbit prints. Everyone's tense, like they're in a live-action survival show, minus the cameras and theme music. You signal for everyone to spread out. Then, a rabbit appears. Of course it's a rabbit. That same smug species that's haunted you since day one. The bait begins hopping back and forth, making weird, sounds. Not exactly Oscar-worthy, but somehow it gets the rabbit's attention. It pauses, tilts its head. 1 second, 2 seconds. You signal, go. The team leaps into action. The blocker trips. The flanker stabs a bush by mistake. You, arguably the most trained, throw your spear. It misses completely. The rabbit hops back, looks around and calmly walks off again like it's heading to the farmer's market. No fear, no rush, just disappointment. You want to cry. No one says anything. The wolf pack disbands immediately without a single formal announcement. You sit in the snow staring into the void, watching the rabbit disappear into legend. Someone mutters, maybe the wolves have been training for years. Another sighs. Maybe we should befriend them instead. You stand up, brush snow off your rear, and say with as much dignity as you can muster, at least, we tried. And you did, you tried. That afternoon, there's no meat, but there's laughter. Your group sits around the fire retelling the moment the rabbit stared at you like a disappointed teacher correcting spelling. Everyone chuckles, even you. And in that moment, you realize something. Maybe meat isn't the only thing keeping you alive. Maybe it's the laughter, the shared failures, the way no one walks away when things go wrong. That evening, as the fire flickers and smoke curls into the sky, you lie back and think, tomorrow I'll try a new strategy. Not like the wolves, maybe something a bit more human. Part 11. When bats become the main course. You wake before dawn dew collecting on your eyebrows and dripping onto your cheek like a cold slap from the god of oversleepers. But you don't complain. Today, you've got a new target. Smaller than a rabbit, easier than a fish, definitely less sarcastic than a squirrel. Bats. It doesn't sound ideal, but after Moss Icebee's fish and that one strategic hunt that fell apart in under 10 seconds, you're ready to eat anything with a pulse, as long as it doesn't bite you first. You remember a small cave near the edge of camp where you spotted some bats flitting around at dusk. Small black quiet, like tiny flying socks. You don't know if they're edible, but at least they don't give you attitude. And that's enough. You prep your gear, a homemade bat swatting paddle, really. Just a flat stick with hide tied at the ends. One friend with a torch, another with a sack for inventory, and you, the designated hunter, somewhere between hopeful and unhinged. You reach the cave just before first light. Everything is silent, so silent you can hear your heartbeat trying to talk you out of this. You creep inside. The smell hits you first, damp, acrid, unmistakably batty. Like someone invented central heating using only ammonia and bad choices. It's musty and warm in a disturbing way. But then your eyes adjust. Bats, a whole clump, hanging upside down, fast asleep. Tiny, fluffy, helpless. Your pupils dilate with protein lust. You signal. The torch comes up. The sack is ready. You grip the paddle, take a breath. Whack! Your paddle slaps the cave wall. The bats freak out. One drops. You grab it like a man catching his last chance. It squeaks softly, offended. Suddenly, the cave erupts. Bats everywhere. You're in the center of a flurry of wings, fur, and tiny, outraged chirps. The torchbearer screams. Not to the face, and bolts. The bag holder drops everything and kicks you in a panic. But you stay, swinging like you're playing the most high-stakes tennis match in prehistory. You hit one, then another. 3 small confused bats land in the bag. You shout, "I got them." In your moment of triumph, you accidentally kick the torch. It falls, goes out. Darkness. The bats circle in protest. You back away slowly, bruised but victorious, bag in hand. Back at camp, no time is wasted. No ceremony, no recipes. You slice the bats into pebble-sized cuts, season them with a few mineral flakes and drop them on a flat, hot rock. The smell is not awful, smoky, slightly sour with undertones of burnt feather duster. People gather. No one's excited, but no one says no. One bite, then another. Silence. One person says, "At least it's not moss." Another nods, "Could use more, not being bat." You smile. That's enough. You save one bat, uncooked as a keepsake. You hang it in front of your tent, your trophy. People laugh. Someone names it Lucky Dinner. That night, lying on your back belly, not full but no longer howling, you think back. Who'd have thought maybe no one will write about it, but you'll remember. The night dinner flew in and didn't fly out. Just before sleep, you glance sideways. That one bat dangles from its string little face, frozen mid-squeak, looking oddly smug. You whisper, "Don't worry. I only ate your friends. You are our spirit animal." Part 12. The desperate quest for a root vegetable. You wake up from a bizarre dream, still lingering in your mind. An endless field of tubers, sprouting naturally, peeling themselves, roasting perfectly, and lining up politely for you to eat. The dream was so vivid that upon waking you nearly bit into your own fur sleeve, thinking it was a honey-glazed baked potato. You sit up. The fire's long dead. Just cold ash and the faint smell of yesterday's bat. Your stomach grumbles again, but this time it doesn't scream meat. It's gentler, more refined, whispering, "What about a nice root vegetable?" You remember a story passed around camp by one of the older folk, someone who claims to have survived 3 winters and once took a rock to the head and lived. He spoke of a place beyond the southern ridge where people long ago found plump roots buried in the ground. Wild tubers, rare but real. And if you found one, you got first pick at roasting it. Sounds like myth, but then again, so did squirrel meat once. You prepare for your expedition, pack a sharpened rib bone for digging a small pouch, and an oversized portion of hope. You hike past the stone ridge through a brittle forest where the wind keeps asking, "Where are you going? Can't you just eat moss again?" But not today. You start digging. 5 minutes a rock. 10 minutes a worm too small to eat. 15 an ant nest. Ants. Furious ants. They pour out as if you've just evicted their great-grandmother, You leap back, swatting wildly, muttering, "Definitely not potatoes." You pause discouraged. Then your eyes catch a squat, thick plant growing at the base of a sunlit rock, its roots bulging suspiciously beneath the soil. Something in you whispers, "Try one more time." You crouch down and dig gently with your hands, bit by bit scraping away snow and earth. And then, something soft. Not dirt, not bark. Something lumpy, damp, and unmistakably edible looking. You gasp. It's a tuber. Rough, earthy, knobbly, and glorious. You don't shout, you whisper a victory cry just in case a bear is listening. But inside your soul does cartwheels. You pull it from the earth. It's about the size of your palm, heavy, firm, full of potential. You smile like you've just discovered fire again. Back at camp, you wash it in snowmelt, slice it up, roast the pieces on a hot stone. The smell rises gentle, sweet, rich. A distant cousin to the baked sweet potato from your past life. The group gathers around. Each person takes a small piece. They bite. Eyes light up. No one says a word, just the sound of chewing and sighs. Good sighs. You watch them and feel something deeper than pride, a quiet kind of power. You didn't just cook something, you unearthed it. Hope pulled straight from the soil. Afterwards, a few others grab digging tools and head toward the same ridge. No one knows if more tubers are hiding there, but if one exists, maybe two. And if not, well, it beats eating moss again. That night you lie on your back, chewing the final slice. Not the best thing you've ever tasted. Not the sweetest. But it didn't sting, fly away, run, or poison you. You smile and whisper to yourself, "Potato, I love you." Part 13. The reason someone invented farming. The morning after your emotionally charged potato feast, you step out of your tent with a strange new sensation in your chest momentum. The air is still cold, the wind still bites, but for the first time in days, maybe ever, you feel hopeful. Then you see it. Right where you dug up the tuber yesterday, something tiny, green and stubborn is poking through the soil. A sprout, no taller than half a finger, barely holding its own against the frost, but still there, still alive. You kneel, gaze level with it. No mistaking it, it's a baby plant, growing exactly where the old one was. You take a step back, heart strangely full. Not because you're some kind of nature whisperer, but because suddenly you've found something bigger than dinner, a repeatable result. You rush back to camp and grab a handful of dry seeds you'd picked up earlier. At the time you'd thought about eating them, but they were too hard. Now though, you're looking at them differently. You dig a little hole, drop in a few seeds, cover them up, gently place a flat stone nearby to protect them from the wind. Someone notices. You hiding treasure, they ask. You shake your head. No, I'm planting the next meal. They laugh, but there's something different in their eyes. One of them squats beside you with a rock and starts digging a hole too. Another brings over a few more seeds, then another. And that's how it starts. On a freezing morning, your tribe, once united only by shared failure and an almost spiritual hatred of moss, is now planting things. No one says it, but everyone knows this is the weirdest and smartest thing you've done. And you wonder, could this be when farming actually began? In your past life, you remembered memorizing a line in school. Humans shifted from foraging to agriculture around 10,000 BCE. At the time, it was just a multiple choice answer. Now, you're standing in the middle of that sentence. Someone asks, what if the seeds don't grow? You shrug. Then we go back to digging. But if they do, maybe for once we don't have to chase food. Maybe food will wait for us. Sounds dramatic, but also very true. You suddenly feel like a philosopher in a fur coat. Later that day, a gust of wind blows through. Some wild seeds fall from a distant bush. You run out and collect them like you're catching tiny bits of the future. Each one small and rough, yet full of possibility. That evening by the fire, you tell the story of the sprout. Everyone listens like you've just come down from the mountain with a divine recipe. One person asks, "If this works, can we grow stuff all winter?" You shake your head, no idea. But if we never start, we'll never know. A child pipes up, "Can we grow rabbits?" The whole group bursts out laughing. You laugh too. No. But if we grow greens, the rabbits will come, and then we'll have both. You lie back that night staring at the sky. Clouds drift lazily. The wind is still cold, but the fire is warm. And you realize sometimes, instead of chasing everything, all it takes is planting something and waiting. You drift off to sleep dreaming of potato fields, bats flying like birds, and a rabbit wearing an apron, watering your garden. Part 14, when you smell grilled meat coming from another tent. You wake up in the middle of the night to a scent both unfamiliar and deeply nostalgic. Not smoke, not wet fur, not musty moss, but grilled meat. Real, hot, cooked. You jolt upright, nearly tumbling out of your pile of dry grass. Your nose goes into high alert. This is its moment. The smell drifts through the gaps in the hide walls, subtle as a barefoot rabbit, but strong enough to shake your entire being awake. You step outside, scanning the camp. The wind is calm. Moonlight glows. All seems quiet except for a faint trail of smoke curling up near the edge of the tents. Not far, just far enough. You tiptoe closer, quiet as a sneaky caveman toward the glow, and then you see it, firelight flickering gently behind another shelter. Closer still, and you spot the source. A spit, a proper roasting stick, and on it meat, turning slowly, glistening under moonlight, like some sacred prehistoric dream come true. A small group sits around it, people from that tent, the quiet ones, the ones who don't share tubers, skip the moss experiments, and never join the rabbit hunting circus. And here they are roasting something. One of them sees you. Your eyes meet. You freeze, ready to retreat. But then he smiles. Want a taste? It's like hearing a choir of angels, if angels wore animal hides and had cracked lips. You sit down without asking twice. The meat is torn into chunks and passed your way, like you've just been initiated into a secret society. You bite in. Salty, fatty, crisped edges, not squirrel, not imagination. This is actual honest-to-wildfire meat. Tears well up. The others laugh softly. Someone hands you a hollow bone filled with broth. You sip. It's rich, warm, mysterious. You don't ask where the meat came from. Could be squirrel, could be bat, could be something unnamed. You don't care. After a few moments, you finally speak. How come I never knew you were hiding fire feasts over here? An older member shrugs. We split up whatever we catch. If it's not enough to feed everyone, we keep it small. Not because we're selfish, just if you share half a tendon, no one's really happy. You nod. Fair enough. Another says, though, yeah, it's a bit selfish too. The group laughs again. You stay a while longer, swapping stories. You tell them about the bee sting, the bat stew, the rabbit with the judgmental stare, the baby sprout growing where the potato once was. They listen closely. One finally asks, your group, they really plant things? You nod. Not farmers yet, but learning. He's quiet for a moment, then says, maybe tomorrow. We bring some seeds over, trade you for a future potato. You look at them faces, warm eyes, soft firelight dancing in their shadows, and feel something bigger than a full belly connection. You nod, deal, potatoes and fire, shared. You head back to your own tent still warm, not just from broth and smoke, but from the feeling of being included. For the first time, it feels like more than survival. It feels like belonging. You lie down, hands on your belly, quiet for once. Outside, the wind still howls. But in your chest, something else stirs a kind of fire that doesn't flicker out. Tomorrow you'll invite them over, share tubers, trade stories, maybe roast something together. Maybe, just maybe, humans are getting the hang of this. Part 15. Food isn't just for survival, but for sharing. You wake up earlier than usual, not because of hunger, not because of the cold, but because for the first time since you respawned into the Stone Age, you're genuinely looking forward to something. Last night, next to that secret meat roast, you made a promise. You'd invite the other group over, to eat, to plant, to be together. So today you act on it. You rekindle the fire. It takes less time now. Maybe the wood is drier. Maybe your hands have learned. Then you take the last of the leftover tubers, slice them carefully, drop them into boiling snowmelt. Add a few salt flecks, a blade of fragrant grass. It's not much, but it's hot, it's honest. As the steam rises, it carries more than a smell. It carries an invitation. Soon you see shadows near the edge of camp. It's them, the quiet group. They've come. Carrying pouches of seeds, a few root scraps, bundles of sticks, and most importantly, expressions that say we're not here to take, we're here to join. You motion them to sit, pass around scoops of steaming potato broth. No one complains. Everyone smiles. Not because it tastes amazing, it doesn't, but because it's warm, and it's shared. Someone asks you, why did you even think of planting things? You pause, then answer, because I got tired of chasing food. I wanted something that would wait for me to come home. A younger one mumbles, like, maybe homes aren't for hiding in, but for returning to. You nod. That might be the smartest thing anyone's said since you arrived in this timeline. The rest of the morning is spent sowing more seeds, digging new holes, patching up tents, and stacking firewood. Everyone has hands. Everyone helps. A child draws on a flat stone, a cartoon potato with a smiling face. Someone declares it the spirit of the field. Everyone laughs. Later, someone brings out a piece of dried honeycomb. They place it on a hot stone until it melts and bubbles. No bees attack this time. Maybe even the bees are watching, quietly approving. A man makes music with a hollow bone. Someone else bangs stones on a stump like drums. It's not hunting, not hiding, not surviving, just being together. You sit there watching them cook, clean whistle hum. It hits you, you're no longer the lone idiot chasing rabbits or gnawing on moss in the dark. You're part of something. You've survived, but more than that, you've connected. Back in your past life, people argued about when human society really began, when farming started, when community formed. But here now, you know it starts with a shared meal. As the sun sets, people return to their shelters, but no one closes their doors. Someone ties a bundle of leaves outside, sign food available, come in. You tie a leftover root to your sign. There's space to sit, no need to ask. Night falls, the fire flickers. You lie on your back, arms folded full in a way that soup can't explain. For the first time in days, you don't dream of potatoes or flying dinner. You don't need dreams tonight. Reality is good enough. You whisper to yourself, tomorrow I'll teach someone else how to plant. You smile not because of food or warmth or safety, but because you know from now on you won't be hungry alone. You lie there in your warm tent next to the sound of crackling firewood and steady breathing. No one's sneaking off to catch rabbits in desperation. No one's chewing moss because they have to. No one's poking beehives out of hunger-induced madness. everything slows down, softens. You think back on it all, your first frozen midnight pee, your showdown with the rabbit, your humiliation under the ice, your mossy misadventure, the buzzing butt sting, and the sad sculpture known as grilled squirrel. And somehow, through all of it, you found the most important thing: other people. No one here is a hero, no one's always right, but when you sit together and eat even the worst stew with company, it becomes something sacred. You realize survival isn't about being top of the food chain. It's about inviting someone else to sit with you at the fire. Outside, the wind still howls. Winter isn't over. But in here, you have fire, you have shelter, you have people. And just outside, little seeds are waiting to grow. You close your eyes, exhale. Tomorrow might still be cold. But you won't face it alone.